Shall we begin? Let's begin now. Let's begin now.
This is not a drill.
Repeat, this is not a drill.
Is that all you got?
Let's begin now.
What up? Oh, for sure.
Hello, everybody. How are you? Testing. Right, just make sure my microphone level's right. Hi to you all. If you're just filling in on Twitter, or if you're just joining me on Twitter or TikTok or Rumble or Rockfin or YouTube or indeed TikTok over on the left, then hello. How are you? We're going to talk about some news today with regards to Rishi Sunak. We're going to talk about Ukraine. We're going to talk about Pakistan. We're going to talk about some other stuff as well. Hello, Tia Wheeler. Hello, Saint Don. Hello, fellow citizen. So yeah, that's what we're going to talk about tonight, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm on a prepaid meter. My electric and my gas are on prepaid meters. And my prepaid meter, I can see my daily how much I spend on electric. And in the last 3 days, my electric's gone up about 45%, I think. How about you? It's going to be hard, to say the least, isn't it? Especially if you look at what the government have said they're going to provide us with. This is Rishi Sunak's Twitter thread. He said, this is last week, he said, in this spring statement, which was last week, we are helping families with the cost of living. And this is the way he's going to do it. Obviously, we've got the price of fuel has gone up 40% already. That's due to go up another 50%, they're saying, in August, I think, October, later, in about 6 months' time, because the energy cap is every 6 months it's reviewed, and they say it's going to come down eventually, sometime in the next couple of years. But for the time being, the price that you were paying in January this year is likely to be double that next year. So within 12 months, your energy bills are likely to go up by twice as much. And obviously, if your energy bills go up, then your fuel in your car goes up as well, and your heating goes up for cooking your food, obviously. But then the buying of the food goes up as well, because it costs more to feed the animals, to obviously, harvest the crops, etc., etc., etc. It all goes through the roof. At the moment, we're looking, I think there's 7.25% inflation at the moment. And this is what Rishi Sunak, Chancellor of Exchequer in this country, has suggested will ease the burden for many of us who are on a minimum wage, or not even that anymore. The working poor, let's face it. So he says the fuel duty cut, frozen for 12 years, is now cut by 5p. It doesn't even cover £330 tax cut. Earn up to £12,570 and pay no national insurance or income tax, he says. He says he's going to cut income tax from 2024. I don't know how that's going to help in the price, in the energy rise over the next 2 years. But from 2024, he's going to cut income tax from 20% down to 19%. That's nothing. That's for 2 years. The energy bills rebate, he says, giving millions of households a rebate of £350. You've got to apply for that, haven't you? The national living wage has increased, a boost of over £1,000 a year, he says. And the universal credit taper reduced an extra £1,000 for 2 million families. The licence fee frozen, he says, at £159, halting a rise £280. So he's going to give us something by not taking it away. That's going to help. That's going to help by not putting the price up on the licence fee. Okay. And the doubling of the household support fund. So going to double the support thing for charity. Essentially what we're talking about here is it's £200 off your, I think, a £200 loan and £150 off your council tax bill, of which you've got to apply, by the way, and also for the energy thing as well. And many homes haven't applied for that. Reminded me actually about something I can back that up with. So for the time being, we're going to get a £200 loan and £150 rebate on our council tax, or vice versa. It's about £350 we're going to get over the next year. Now, the average increase is going to be about £1,200 a household each year. That's £100 a month. This is from the Express and Star. This is my local paper. Tens of thousands in Wolverhampton households will not automatically get the council tax rebate. About 48,000 households across Wolverhampton, this is just across Wolverhampton, will not automatically receive the £150 council tax rebate that they are due in April. The payment was promised by Chancellor Rishi Sunak in response to rising energy bills, which are set to skyrocket when the price cap increases. It already has. All properties in council tax bands A to D are entitled to the £150 payment announced in February. This is something that they don't tell you. If you're in London and you're in, council accommodation in London, you don't get this rebate, because pretty much every property in London is going to be above band D, isn't it? Every house, certainly. So they're not going to get it down there. But you've got to apply for it to get it. You don't get it automatically. I'm not sure whether this has been made, public, really, has it? And has there been a big deal made about it? Only those paying council tax by direct debit will receive it automatically. Will receive the refund automatically. If you pay, on a weekly basis or monthly basis, if you've got a card or anything like that, or if you, don't pay it, you won't get it. You won't get the rebate. If you're in arrears, you won't get the rebate. That's 48,000 households just in Wolverhampton. Can you imagine how many that's going to be up and down the country that are not going to get this rebate that he's crowing about, that he's given everybody? If you pay your bills by visiting the council's website every month, or you make your payments by phone, or visit the civic centre to pay in person, you won't get the rebate. You've got to apply for it. So you can, if you want to claim the money back, it will be promoted via channels available on your Wolverhampton or your local council website, it says. But apply for it, because otherwise you won't get it. If you're on a prepaid meter, if you pay, prepaid card, if you pay, in person, you visit the council, the website, or you do it via the phone. If you do any of those things, you've got to apply for this rebate. So, with regards to that rebate, you've got to apply for it. Many people are not going to get that. The price of just heating alone per household is going to go up about £100 a month. So far, he's offered nothing. The is it £150 loan? £150 loan, I think, he's offered. And it's a loan. It's a loan. We'll get to it in a minute. There's calls right now in Parliament from the SNP for him to do another emergency budget already. SNP MP Alison Thoules has called for the Chancellor to bring forward an emergency budget to help millions across the UK who face being plunged into poverty and hardship as a result of the cost of living crisis, the Express and Star, again, my local paper. The MP Alison Thoules demanded action from the UK government as people across the country saw both energy bills and national insurance payments rise. Of course, all this is happening while the MPs got their £2,200 pay rise in April. So, just thought I'd point that out. While you and I are going to be £1,200 worse off because of the energy prices, they've already got theirs covered in their wages, which obviously we pay for. Fair, isn't it? So the SNP Treasury spokeswoman at Westminster, Miss Thulis, insisted the recent spring statement from the Chancellor had been a deliberate choice by the government to ignore the Tory cost of living brewing under its watch. She added that people could not wait until the budget in autumn for help from its ministers. Obviously, in autumn, it's going to get even worse. Price cap's going to go up again, they're saying. She called on Mr Sumak to bring forward an emergency budget, saying this should convert the recent £200 loan announcement to help people with rising energy bills into a more generous grant. The SNP also demanded the increase in national insurance contributions should be scrapped and said the £20 uplift to universal credit should be reinstated. Obviously, this is political point scoring by the SNP here. But here's Rishi Sunak. I don't think he understands what a loan is. This is the Chancellor of our Exchequer. This is the guy who runs the numbers. I hope you can hear this on TikTok, but this is him last week. Oh, excuse me. Ah! I know you can't hear at the moment. Just bear me a second.
No, actually, I think it's
already in fuel debt, who are on prepayment meters because of that debt, are being asked to take on another £200 of debt from you.
no. Actually, I think it's wrong to describe it that way, and I think it's also, I'd say, gently, it's wrong to worry people that that's what's happening, because it's clearly not.
So what he's saying there, I don't know whether you can hear it, but he's being questioned. He's saying, why are you saying that the answer here for people to, help them with the energy crisis is to take on an extra £200 of debt? And obviously, if you need this, if you're desperate and you're already under the breadline probably, or touching on it, so getting into more debt, it's signing you into a life of servitude almost. It's a debt. If I give you £200 and there's an expectation that you pay me back at some time in the future, that's a debt. You owe me money. And what he's saying there is, it's very unfair to call it a debt, and you shouldn't frame it that way. This is doublespeak again, isn't it? He's saying, no, we're not going to call this debt a debt now. We're actually going to call it something else, which sounds better. Like, we don't call things torture, we call things enhanced interrogation. We don't call it sending weapons to anybody. We call it military aid or lethal aid. It's sickening, this is the way they just try and change words to get away with robbing the poor blind. I'll get into it. He's not going to be suffering this winter.
Already in fuel debt, who are on prepayment meters because of that debt, are being asked to take on another £200 of debt from you.
No, actually, I think it's wrong to describe it that way, and I think it's also, I'd say, gently, it's wrong to worry people that that's what's happening, because it's clearly not what's happening. Actually,
is it money you're giving them that they owe you?
It's not debt. It's not a loan.
If I give you money and then it's expected to be paid back, it's a loan.
The money
You're asking it to be paid back.
That's because of the mechanism.
At a time in the future.
The mechanism of how. So what we're doing is saying you don't have to come up with £200 this year, because that's a lot extra to deal with. Instead,
it's £40 next year, and the next year, and the next year, and the next year, and the next year.
Well, if
exactly, it's a life of servitude. He's making sure that you're going to be in debt, that the poor are going to be in debt, that they can never ever get out of. He's not proposing any solution here other than to saddle the poor in this country, and the middle class now, let's face it, what's left of them, with the working poor, the vast majority of us, let's face it, with an endless amount of debt that we can never repay. And it seems that that's the plan here. He is going to be just fine, though. There's been stuff about his wife. His wife has got shares in a company called Infosys. Quite a lot of shares, actually. $690 million stake in Indian IT firm Infosys, which was in Moscow. Obviously, as they're sanctioning every company that's doing business in Russia and throwing Russia out the Olympics and doing all this Russophobic stuff, saying you've got to be anti-Russia, and if you're not coming out and condemning Putin, then you're a Putin puppet and you're going to be cancelled and you're not going to be able to play at Wimbledon or play anywhere. His wife, obviously, they were trying to make excuses to no, it's different. Oh, it's my wife. What, so there's one degree of separation there. They weren't sanctioned, of course, you know. They're going to urgently shut the Moscow office. But that's only because there was an outrage. That's not because it's the right thing for them to do. No. It's because there was an outrage over it. Now, the Chancellor's wife, Akshata Murthy, has a $690 million stake in Indian IT firm, says The Guardian. I just want to read a little bit of this for you, just to give you an idea as to just how rich Mr. Sunak's family is. Whilst he's saddling the poor, the working poor in this country, with an endless amount of debt that they can never repay. And I need to register. Keep reading. They're going to shut down this Infosys anyway. But this is where they're going to be spending their, Easter. Rishi Sunak and his wife, Akshata Murthy, met while studying for a Master in Business Administration qualification at Stanford University in Silicon Valley. After marrying in a lavish ceremony in India, the couple planned to settle down in California and bought a penthouse flat in Santa Monica. The flat, which the couple are reported to be visiting over Easter holidays, is valued at £5.5 million. Where Rishi Sunak and his wife is going to spending his Easter holidays this weekend. Murthy, the daughter of the billionaire founder of Infosys, so her father owns the firm, bought the penthouse apartment, one of four in the Waverley complex on Ocean Avenue, directly from the developer in 2014. Estate agents for the 6-storey building, built in 2013, boast that the penthouses come with, quote, large private outdoor terraces unlike ever seen before on Ocean Avenue. Residents are promised the apartments will provide the epitome of urban Santa Monica beach living, with stunning views of the Santa Monica mountain, and where you wake up to the sound of waves crashing against the shore. This obviously, that's where he's going to be spending his time. But he's not presenting himself like that, is he? It's all about image, and he's trying to do a PR thing here. Borrowing a £12,000 Kia Rio from a Sainsbury's worker for a photo op. Do you remember this from last week? I haven't been live since this happened, so I've got to touch on it. Not sure whether you're going to be able to see the pictures on this. This is from the Daily Mail, unfortunately, but you can see here he is at the pump.
So when I first started Morrison's.
For a photo op. He's one of you. He's one of you. He's a man of the people.
Do you live around here somewhere?
That's obviously what he's trying to do. There was an uproar because he seemed not to be able to use a debit card either. Didn't really know how to use a debit card, and smiling as he pumped fuel. Have you seen the price of fuel? Nobody smiles as they're at the pump anymore. I had a joke. So one of my friends went. I went to the pump and the guy before me put £10 in. I thought, £10. Where's he going? Pump 4. He's just doing a photo op, trying to make out that everything's fine. He's one of you. He's struggling. He's going to struggle just like you. Where's my mouse gone off? But that's who he is. Billionaire father-in-law, millionaire, multi-millionaire, billionaire wife, let's face it. Millionaire himself, multi-millionaire. What's his net worth? Have a quick Google of his net worth. See what Google says, eh? This is from the iNews. Rishi Sunak will deliver the statement. Well, yeah, he did deliver the statement, as we know. It underwhelmed everybody, as I've talked about. Rishi Sunak is believed to be the richest man in the House of Commons. Thanks to his past career as a banker and his marriage to Akshata Murthy, the daughter of one of India's most successful entrepreneurs. Before going into politics, Mr. Sunak worked for the US investment bank Goldman Sachs. He's one of you! He fills up his Kia Rio at the pump with his debit card. £30. One of you! Worked for Goldman Sachs. He then moved into hedge fund management and eventually set up his own firm, Thelemy Partners, in 2010. He registered a blind trust in July 2019 after being appointed Chief Secretary to the Treasury by former Chancellor Sajid Javid, and it is believed to contain a multi-million pound fortune. Blind trusts allow people to make interest from their investments without knowing where the money is actually invested. Just say that again. Blind trusts allow people to make interest from their investments without knowing where the money is actually invested. This is supposed to remove any conflicts of interest with Mr. Sunak now in charge of the UK economy. He came under pressure to release details of that blind trust last October, particularly whether any of the money has been held in offshore accounts. Liberal Democrat leader blah 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 said at the time, the truth with this trust is that the only people that are blind to it are the public. It's true, isn't it? We can't see where the money is invested. The Chancellor only set up the trust 18 months ago, but the public has no idea where the money is or whether there is a conflict of interest. Of course, we can't check. We're blind to it too. With public trust in this government plummeting, greater transparency in all their dealings is essential for the Chancellor, and it must show a lead. The vast majority of Mr. Sunak's wealth come from his wife, who he married in 2009. Get this. His father is the co-founder of tech giant Infosys, and her shares in that company are believed to be worth £430 million. She's richer than the Queen. But he's at the pumps doing photo op saying, I'm one of you. Well, I mean, let's face it. This is like his budget statement. I mean, this won't even if you put the £200 and the £150 together, the £200 loan and the £150 repay, and you get both of them, that's £350. Average household, £1,200 increase just in fuel in the next year. Just in fuel. There's a shortfall there of people are £850 worse off already. But actually it's not that. It's £1,200 worth off, because most people aren't going to get the rebate because they haven't applied for it. And the £200 is actually a loan, even though you're saying, no, it's unfair to call it that. It's a loan, pal. If you've got to pay it back at some stage in the future, that's a loan. Her family also has a £900 million joint venture. Sorry, say that again. Her family, that's his wife, also has a £900 million joint venture with Amazon in India, while Miss Murthy herself owns a UK-based venture capital company and is director or direct shareholder at 5 other UK companies. The venture capital company is called Catamaran Ventures. She used it to store her private wealth. Of course, all of this stuff goes offshore, you know. It's all... We don't know where any of it goes. We've seen the Panama Papers and Pandora Papers, but we haven't really. We've just seen a tiny fraction of them. They only basically released the goods on stuff that they didn't like. Mr. Sunak formerly owned shares in that company, but transferred them after to his wife after becoming MP. So he's still got them. His wife's just in his wife's name. So that's who Mr. Sunak is, and that's what he's offering us. That's what he's offering people. And there are calls, obviously, for him to offer more. But I'm amazed that people are putting up with this. I can't quite get my head around it. I keep looking out the window and thinking, nobody's marching yet. I don't see people on with torches and spikes in the streets, you know? What's it going to take? Do you understand how much the energy firms have made just in the last few years? Just during the energy pandemic. Shall we have a look? Have a look. Shell's profits for 2021 overall is just Shell. In 2021, rose to 19.3 billion compared with just 4.8 billion the year before. So last year, Shell made 5 times the amount that they made in 2020. Yeah. But all of our fuel's going up, right? Everything's going up. They've made billions. BP. Energy prices lift BP profits to 8-year high, say Reuters. What's this from? This is from February the 8th, 2022. So this is just 2 months ago. Energy prices lift BP profits to an 8-year high. Obviously, Shell are making bank. BP has reported 12.8 billion profit in 2021. BP boosts share buybacks. Fourth quarter profit to 4.1 billion. That's $4,100 million. Just a billion is 1,000 million. So 12.8 billion is, well, $12,800 million in profit last year, just last year. BP's profits hit their highest in 8 years in 2021, lifted by soaring gas and oil prices as the company boosted share repurchases and accelerated plans to cut emissions with increased spending on low carbon energy. BP's rebound to an annual profit of 12.85 billion after a large loss in 2020. So they made money last year. Great, isn't it? But everything's going up. All of our prices are going up. We didn't cause any of this, by the way. You and I, the people who are going to be most hit by these increases and most hit by these fuel increases and the rising inflation and the cost of food are the people who already are struggling in this country, who already are on the breadline, who already are underneath the breadline, are already in fuel poverty, and now being hit the hardest again, while people like Rishi, well, what? Has there been anything? Has there been a tax on billionaires? Anything? Has there been anything from him at all to say, don't worry, we're all in this together? You know, this is Great Britain. We look after everybody in this country. All of us, you know? Of course not. He's doing photo ops at Sainsbury's in a Kia that he loaned to try and give a photo op that, you know, he's one of us really, whilst he steals everybody's wealth. and assigns them into seemingly a life of servitude forever, where they are in debt to the state and will never be able to get out of it ever. Yeah, at what stage do you call this a cull? You know? At what stage do you look at them and go, so you're going to freeze people to death and starve them to death? That's what's going to happen, isn't it? Whilst your mates, who you've been looking after for the last decade, since the financial crisis in 2008, which none of us caused, since the financial crisis, you've told everybody, through austerity, you've told the poorest among the population for a decade that they have got to pay to get the country out the shit that the bankers and the billionaires got us in 2008. Just done that, and now you're going to print a shitload of money over the pandemic and what have you, causing all this inflation. The world's gone to crap. None of us caused it, but you're going to make everybody, the poorest again, pay the price. At what stage do you go, well, I mean, why aren't there millions in the streets right now? Because if they can get away with this, they will. If he can get away with signing you into a life of servitude and debt that you can never get out of, they will. In fact, you could argue that that's what they've done already. Nikki, I've just seen your comment. I do hope you're okay. Nikki's a friend of mine, and she just mentioned that she's had hypothermia twice last winter in a wheelchair. The poor and disabled who are going to be hit the hardest in this, and obviously, what's the option? What option do we have? Well, at the moment, the way our electoral system is and the way we work, the option is this guy. And I want to show you this because it's telling. This is Keir Starmer on the BBC. This is April Fool's Day. It's over the weekend. This guy's like, no, it's not April Fool's. This is Keir Starmer answering questions on what he would do. Because obviously, you've got to imagine, if you don't pay your bill now, right, and you can't afford to pay your bill, you haven't got the money to pay your bill, your electric bill, you're going to get cut off. Okay? Can't pay your gas bill, you're going to get cut off. And if you're on a prepaid meter like I am, you don't get cut off. You just run out of gas, and that's it. It's an instant cut off. Keir Starmer won't even attach himself to promising that nobody's gas and electric will get cut off. Listen to this.
Would you make it illegal for someone's energy to be cut off?
If I can turn this up.
You'll clarify for me whether that's the case at the moment. What happens? Would you make it illegal for someone's energy to be cut off? And you'll clarify for me whether that's the case at the moment. What happens when the money runs out? Someone who has a disability, someone who's in poverty. What happens then, and would you seek some kind of government measure, an extreme measure, something we haven't seen before, to help those people?
Well, firstly, isn't it shocking we're even having this discussion in 21st century Britain?
Okay, first of all, it's like he says, firstly, isn't it shocking? Mate, just answer the question, come on. Would you make it so nobody's gas and electric is going to get cut off? Would you? Don't describe the water, but this is what he does, isn't it? This is why people call him Captain Hindsight. He's great at explaining what's happened.
a Tory government, that we're talking about a situation where people might have their energy cut off because they simply can't afford to pay.
What would you do to
for it.
preclude that?
The first thing I'd do is exactly what I've described, which is to enable those that most need it to have the £600 on towards their energy bills that they desperately need at the moment. That would mean that very few people would be in the position of not being able to pay for their energy. So you're putting to me, quite rightly, I understand it, a challenge, which is assuming the government is as pathetic as it is and doesn't do anything, we're going to have people in this awful position. What would we do? First answer is I wouldn't put them in that awful position in the first place. But the fact that...
So so energy bills are going to go up £1,200 this year, and his option is to give people £600. Am I reading that right? Is that what he's saying? Oh, okay. We're going to make you £600 worse off instead of £1,200 worth off. Is this what he's saying? Is that correct?
Energy cut off.
Well, my impression is you don't have an answer for that question, because what you've said is they shouldn't be in that position. I'm giving you... There are people who will be watching this programme this morning who may well be thinking, by the end of this month, I genuinely don't think I can pay my bill. And it may be in 3 months' time, or after October when the prices go up again. And you say they should be turning to government. I'm asking you, as the leader of the Labour Party, what is the end game? How can they be helped? I'm not looking backwards. I'm looking to what happens on that day.
No, I'm not looking backwards either. I'm saying what we would do, first and foremost, is not put people in that position.
You said that before.
Well, I know, but it's very, very important.
I want politicians to answer questions. Don't you? Why are they allowed to do this? He has been asked this direct question now 3 times and he will not answer it. They are all the same. It doesn't matter whether they wear a red tie or a blue tie or a yellow tie. It doesn't matter. They are all the same. They engage in this ridiculous doublespeak where they don't answer anybody's question and they say absolutely nothing. This guy's great option. Remember, this is the guy who dumped the £15 minimum wage that Corbyn was touting. He dumped it. The Tories, the minimum wage at the moment is £9.50 an hour. The Tories have said they'll put it up to £10.50. Keir Starmer said 10 quid. There is no difference whatsoever in these politicians at all. They are not serving you and I. Not a single one of them. None of them.
Because the government is doing nothing. If the government tomorrow adopted our scheme and reduced and was able to use that windfall tax to help people with their bills by £600, people wouldn't be put in that awful position. I think that...
Yes, they would. They would still be £50 a month worse off, Keir.
A very important answer to your question, because that means people aren't put...
Said nothing. Got no answers at all. They've got no answers. These people, Rishi Sunak, Keir Starmer, it doesn't matter which tie they're wearing. They don't have a clue what to do and what they're going to do to help you and to look after you, it seems. We need... Well, I mean, I think we need a revolution. I really do. I think we need... to stop electing these people. I think we need to stop... we need to disengage from this completely, this political system. Let's create our own. Can we do that? Can we create our own system? Where, these people who say that, they're lording over us. They're ruling over us like royalty. Hundreds of millions of pounds. They're giving tax cuts to these people. Letting them get away with hiding their riches in the British Virgin Islands and all sorts of offshore tax havens that we facilitate through that Rishi Sunak facilitates through the City of London and his banker friends, hiding his money in blind trusts so nobody can see where it is and what he's profiting from. They're all right. They pay less percentage of tax than I do. And I'm on universal credit. I pay a higher rate of tax than him. I bet you I do. It's the system that needs changing, not the politicians. The politicians are all the same. It's the system that needs an overhaul. Because it's not working for you and me. And these people that are getting elected, they're not. They're in a totally different world to us. They don't even operate the same air. The Chancellor of the Exchequer doesn't even know how to use a debit card. He's that out of touch with normality. Okay. I need to talk about Ukraine for a bit, because there have been troubling images coming out of Ukraine for the last 8 years, to be honest. This war didn't start 39 days ago, whenever it was in Ukraine. It started 8 years ago. I've explained this in previous videos. If you haven't seen Ukraine on Fire, go and watch it on Rumble. Oliver Stone movie explains the backstory. I don't need to go into the backstory here, but there's stuff going on over there there's alleged war crimes happening. Now, just want to preface this by saying I'm sure that it's happening on both sides. War is hell. But the papers are going nuts. This is this morning's papers, and this is the Daily Mail. Putin's stain on humanity. Talking about the alleged war crimes being covered over there. Financial Times, fresher Russia sanctions as evidence grows of war crimes, say the EU. The Guardian, horror in Bucha. Russia accused of torture and massacre of civilians. The Independent, survivors of Mariupol siege. Daily Express, Putin will pay for despicable war crimes, vows PM. Daily Star didn't cover it, obviously, because they're... But you see the papers, you see what I'm talking about. You know, there are all sorts of scenes coming out. I'm not going to, obviously, show any of those. You can go and see them. I'll get banned if I show any, dead bodies and whatever on any of these channels. I want to be careful here with my wording. But be very careful and be very sure of what you're looking at and what you're being told and what avenues of information are coming your way. Because... where is it? Just find something for me to... There's alleged war crimes coming out of the city of Bucha in Ukraine. But there's a video that I've seen of... You've probably seen it if you've been on Twitter. Like I say, I'm not going to be able to show the video because I'll get my accounts taken. But... it shows dead bodies, and it's the cars driving down the main road, and it shows dead bodies. Now, there has been people online saying, oh, one of those dead bodies moved, blah, 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 blah. No, it didn't. It was raindrop on the windscreen. They're saying the body moved in the rearview mirror. I don't know about that. It looks to me like the little crack in the mirror sort of distorted the image. You know, where they've got that crack where you've got the blind spot in the car, and it looks like the guy sat up anyway. So there's lots of people trying to debunk that video, but I don't think you need to. I don't think you need to go down the conspiracy theory land of going, oh, those dead bodies moved or anything like that. Although we have seen stuff coming out of Ukraine where dead bodies have actually moved. So you can hardly blame people for saying that that could happen. And I just want to explain first of all, who we're arming over there in Ukraine. These are neo-Nazis. This is Chris Williamson. He's just seen a written parliamentary answer from Tory Minister James Heappey confirming that the British government is arming neo-Nazis in Ukraine. This kind of should be all over the news. Here it is. The answer, the question was, does any members of any members of the Ukraine's Azov movement have access to UK-supplied anti-aircraft weapons? And they say the UK is taking a lead role in military support for Ukraine. Anti-aircraft weapons, Starstreak, are being used in Ukrainian armed forces. Ukrainian Military of Defence is likely to have an operation command of the National Guard, which also includes the Azov Battalion. So we're sending these weapons to, we're taking the word of neo-Nazis here. And I just want to give you a quick timeline of Bucha. And like I say, I don't know what has gone on there with those war crimes, and I don't know who was responsible for them. And if you actually read at the bottom of the New York Times article on this, and other articles as well, I'm sure, will have this caveat at the very bottom. The New York Times was unable to independently verify the assertions by Ukraine's Defense Ministry and other officials. So there's that. But I just want to give you a timeline of how these alleged war crimes were unearthed. On March the 30th, Russia left Bucha. On March the 31st, the mayor announced the town was liberated, mentioned the atrocities not once. On April the 1st and the 2nd, the Azov Nazis entered Bucha, and on April the 3rd, the Ukrainian Ministry of Defence published a video of the Russian atrocities. So my question would be, if that's the case, and Moon of Alabama are correct there, and I know they've done great work on other stuff, so I have reason to believe that they've checked that. Why the 3 days? Why did it need the Azov battalion to enter into the city before any videos of these bodies came out? I'm not saying here, I'm not defending Putin, not defending Russia. I think what they're doing is terrible. I think war crimes are being committed over there on both sides. War is hell. I've read a lot about it in the past, even since when I was a kid, and it's hell. Wherever there's war crimes. My argument is always, he gets to do this because we do. He gets away with this because we do. Right now, imagine just think about all of the column inches written about Ukraine over the last month, 2 months. You think of all those stories written. You think of all the hundreds of millions of pounds that we've sent, our money and dollars, that we've sent in lethal aid, as they call it, meaning missiles to Ukraine, to these neo-Nazis that we're arming. And if you don't support arming neo-Nazis, then you're a fascist somehow and a Putin puppet. Why haven't they written all those stories about the war in Yemen? Or the fact that the United States is occupying a third of Syria illegally? Or why aren't they writing about the apartheid in Israel and the illegal occupation there with the Palestinians? The US bombed Somalia the day Russia invaded Ukraine. They didn't get Senate approval for any of that. It's all done under the Patriot Act. And by the way, the Patriot Act came into fruition, I heard. Because essentially George Bush pretty much asked his lawyer, if I made it, if I told you, figure out a way to make it legal for me to do this, would you? And I said, yeah. And then in an interview, why did you bomb all those countries? Why did you invade all those countries? He ends up going, oh, because the lawyer said so. With the circular reasoning and the doublespeak that got us into 2 decades of wars. Still being done now, used flagrantly to violate their own Bill of Rights. So while we're sending all those weapons and everything over there, what are we doing with Yemen? And while all the newspapers are writing headline after headline after headline about genocide. I saw one, genocide. I think it was The Sun. Well, there's an actual genocide happening in Yemen. That really is a genocide. What's happening in Ukraine? There's been a proxy war basically going on there for 8 years, and this is a proxy war. What's happening in Yemen right now, you could argue definitely, yeah, more so than Ukraine, is a genocide. And we, the UK government, support the Saudis as they wage it. We supply the weapons, the missiles, for their planes, which we also supply. And we train their pilots at our RAF bases in this country so they can go and use these weapons that we give them and train them to bomb water towers in the poorest country in the Middle East, which is currently going through the largest humanitarian crisis on the planet and the largest outbreak of cholera ever. And they bomb the water towers. And we support that. We're actually making money from that. Weapons companies in the UK are making money from that. And we support it. Where is the media? Where are they? Why aren't they talking about the genocide in Yemen? Why aren't they talking about, us propping up dictators in Africa? And basically, teaching them how to torture people properly. In the case of, I think it was Zimbabwe. We have no moral authority here at all. And I hope that it gets, I hope I come across as somebody who is trying to explain that to people. I'm not on the side of Russia in this. I think it's terrible what they did. They definitely seized upon an opportunity to do this. It was an opportunist thing. And he took it. And now people are dying. But we can't point fingers at them whilst supporting our own genocide in Yemen, can we? Don't you think the newspapers and the news media are kind of hypocritical if they're saying that what's going on in Ukraine at the moment is a genocide, having not independently verified any of these facts coming out of Ukraine, by the way, and having not talked about the NATO issue really at all, and having not talked about, how America were involved in the coup in 2014. They're now just, anything coming from Russia, they say, asserted without evidence, or it hasn't been independently checked. It's in the headline. But when it comes from Ukraine or Zelensky, pap it. It's believed, isn't it? I don't know what... It's so sad. I don't know what to say about what we can do, because I want peace. And I think keep throwing around, allegations of war crimes when we're letting our own war criminals off scot-free, having no repercussions whatsoever. I'm talking to you on the 4th of April. Tomorrow, the 5th of April, marks 12 years. 12 years since Julian Assange published the collateral murder video detailing the gunning down of civilians, children, and 2 Reuters journalists. Assange faces a 175-year sentence if extradited for revealing this and other war crimes. He's been in detention now for a decade over this. He was just the publisher of that war crime. Go and watch it if you haven't, the collateral murder video that WikiLeaks published. If you've got the stomach, go and watch as those Apache helicopter pilots shout, "Light 'em up," and look at those dead bastards and kill those 2 journalists. Just murder them. And this happens, that's just one video that we found out from Afghanistan. If you look at the Afghanistan stats from Afghanistan, they say that 36,000 civilians were killed by American bombing in Afghanistan. 36,000 innocent civilians. But that's their own figures. Going back to stuff like Guatemala, when the dust settled and years later we found out it was 10 times the amount that actually was reported. And we know from what's coming out of Afghanistan that most of what we heard through the military, through that whole occupation for almost 20 years, was total bullshit and lies. It's only a few months since we withdrew and those people were falling off that plane. Do you remember seeing it? Yet we're pointing the finger over at Putin right now and saying, isn't he terrible? Yes, okay, he's terrible. He's awful. But you think Zelensky, the puppet, is any better? You think Biden is any better? Do you think we are? Of course we're not. Let's stop kidding ourselves, please. And if we're going to actually have a world where there are rules and there are tribunals for war crimes and war criminals, then those rules have to be applied equally. Don't they? The only people who faced any repercussions for that video, the collateral murder video, were the person who leaked it, Chelsea Manning, who's incarcerated twice. First of all, for leaking it. For leaking classified information. That's what it was. You can't classify a war crime. But she was in prison for years and tortured, and then imprisoned again because she wouldn't testify against her publisher, who was the other person who has been prosecuted for it. Well, hasn't been prosecuted yet, but he's in jail, having faced, no trial whatsoever, no charges. He hasn't been found guilty of anything at all. But he's been in prison for over 3 years and arbitrarily detained for 7 years before that. So while our media is screaming war criminal, genocide, it's forgotten that the only 2 people that have been prosecuted for the release of that war crime right there and the murder of innocent children, civilians and journalists was the publisher who published it and the leaker who leaked it. What moral authority do we have if that's the case? We're running around the world saying to other countries, your shit stinks. Pay no attention to the huge pile of Tyrannosaurus dog shit behind us. by the way. Pay no attention to that huge pile of T-Rex shit. But your poop stinks. Putin, Xi Jinping. I think that's about as much as I can say about that. Fellow citizen says Bill Binney, an ex-NSA technical director, states that crimes cannot legally be classified secret. That's correct. You can't classify a war crime. So if anybody says, oh, Julian Assange should be in prison, he released classified information. Well, first of all, releasing classified information, publishing classified information is not a crime. Journalists do that every single day at the New York Times, Washington Post. And in fact, WikiLeaks did it through those publications. But most importantly, you can't classify a war crime. Classifying a war crime to make sure that, to try and hide a war crime, that in itself is a criminal act. But nobody's ever been prosecuted for that. Only the publisher and the person who leaked the information. And we're screaming at other countries around the world, oh, your shit stinks, while supporting an actual genocide in Yemen. There's a plane that takes off every week from the UK. I think it's RAF Bryce Norton. That an article in Declassified. Bear me a second. This one? Yeah, here it is. Here's the video, look. Declassified UK. How can Saudi keep bombing Yemen? Well, this time each week, Britain's largest arms dealer resupplies the Saudi Air Forces via a cargo plane. We filmed it taking off from a BAE factory in Lancashire. I thought it was RAF Bryce Norton for some. There's a 25-minute film on YouTube about it. You should watch this. But here, this
flight is carrying cargo which will help the Saudi Arabians maintain their air force and their Typhoon fighter jets, which are being used to pummel Yemen and have created the world's worst humanitarian disaster here. So you're looking at a key piece in the Saudi war machine taking off from the heart of Lancashire. Here we go.
Every week that plane takes off and resupplying the planes that are committing this genocide in Yemen, and we're one of the I heard one of, I think it was one of the UK former diplomats explaining that, obviously if we stopped and said no, these are war crimes, and our law stops us from actually helping any country or with weapons if it is deemed or that they will be used in war crimes. If we actually followed the law here and did that and said we can't do this, within 10 days there wouldn't be a plane over the sky in Yemen. Their fighter jets are the Typhoon fighter jets. If you're buying weapons for a Typhoon fighter jet, you have to buy it from the people who sold you the jet. You can't just go to America or China or somebody and say, oh, can I have some missiles, please? No. The missiles for the Typhoon fighter jet are built to fit on the Typhoon fighter jet. You can't get missiles from another jet that will fit it. Do you understand what I mean? So, and obviously we're resupplying, we're maintaining the planes, etc. There wouldn't be a plane over the sky without our support. Within 2 weeks, that genocide would stop. Yet our media right now are pointing over in Ukraine and saying, look at that. What's wrong with that picture? If they can do this, if they can get everybody's focus to the right place, you will be living in, well, a false reality. If they keep propagandizing people to the degree that they are at the moment and censoring them. I've just been banned for another week on TikTok, by the way. This time for a video that they actually, on review, restored the video, but kept the ban. They banned me for a week. I asked them to review the video. They reviewed it and said, "Oh no, actually that's all right," but never lifted the ban. So now I'm getting banned for no reason. From this, if the censorship can stop people speaking the truth, and the media just concentrate on half the story or whichever story Rishi Sunak and his mates want them to point their camera at, your version of reality, well, congratulations, you are in 1984. You are in it. Get your notebook out and start screaming down with Big Brother, because that's pretty much all you're going to be able to do soon. Because if you speak out, you'll be deemed a terrorist threat, and they'll take your bank account away like they did the Canadian truckers. These people, and they're meant to serve us. This system is ours. It's meant to serve us. And they've hijacked it and took off with it. All right. I've got an article I want to read to you on what's going on at the moment in Pakistan. Because you may have heard of it. I haven't heard the latest on it for the last 24 hours, so this is probably a little bit out of date, this news I'm bringing to you, but at least I should be able to give you an idea of what is going on over there. But there were allegations about 10 days ago of a coup attempt in Pakistan. Guess who? Let's read this article. It's by a guy called Ijaz Akram. I think it's excellent. See what he says. After a humiliating defeat in Afghanistan and loss of credibility over Ukraine, the era of United States unipolarity seems to be entering its terminal phase, marked by lashing out ferociously in all directions. The most recent of these offences occurred last week when the government of Pakistan alleged that Washington was trying to engineer regime change in Islamabad. Regime change? We would never do that, say the Americans. We've never done that in the past, have we? No, don't look anywhere in history, please. Don't look at that. No. We would never do that. This time, the United States, though, was caught red-handed. It seems. The claim was not made via a leak or a fringe observer, but by the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan himself. While the United States State Department has denied any involvement, the political drama has only just begun. Listen, they've denied any involvement, but I'm telling you straight here, they're lying. They're lying. There's a letter. I've seen the letter. They are up to their necks in this, the United States are, and they are lashing out at everybody. If you don't fit with Washington, if you don't fall in line with Washington 100%, they will sanction you. They will regime change. You know what? If we decided one day to go, you know what, America, I've had enough of this special relationship, how long do you think they would be our friends? How long would it be before they start sanctioning us? How long do you think it would, maybe start sending weapons into fringe elements in Scotland? Or Wales, or Ireland, or France? Wouldn't be very long. America has pretty much, they've removed the mask now, haven't they? You don't fall in line with them 100%, they'll sanction you. Allies or not. Emerging from a crucial meeting of Afghanistan's neighbours, China's top diplomat took a public whack at Washington's behaviour. Foreign Minister Wang Yi said that China will not allow the US to drag smaller nations into conflict and sharply rebuked the US Cold War mentality. Beijing is determined not to allow the US to steal Pakistan from its inner circle of vital Asian partners that today include Russia, Iran, Afghanistan and others. On Wednesday, when a coalition partner of the governing Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf Party, very sorry, the PTI, very sorry if I pronounced that wrong, announced its 7 members would switch to the opposition, Khan essentially lost his majority in the National Assembly, consisting of 342 parliamentarians. More than a dozen of his party members also threatened to cross the political aisle. But the Pakistani opposition had mistakenly believed that as soon as they showed their required numerical majority to Parliament, the Prime Minister would either step down or resign. But that is not what happened. So let me try and make sense of that for you. What happened is this diplomat, this American diplomat, basically sent a letter to members of, somebody in Pakistani government saying that, listen, if Pakistan doesn't have a regime change, then our relations with the United States are just going to deteriorate and never recover. Pretty much. The only way that they'll recover is if Imran Khan's gone. And then the next day, these 7 members travel over and another 12 members of his own party say, oh, we're going to go as well. That's Washington intentionally interfering in an election of a nuclear-powered country. Not an election, in the affairs, the governing of a nuclear-powered country. Pakistan has nukes. There's even threats now there's even a worry now that Imran Khan's going to get assassinated, and India, well, their prime ministers have a history of being assassinated. So this is all United States doing. The hornet's nest by saying this. And obviously they defect. They thought as soon as Imran lost his majority that's it, he would step down, but no, he didn't. He went to his to Parliament, to his vice president. He'd already gone to his vice president and said, yeah, I'm dissolving Parliament, I'm calling an election. They've got 3 months. And then the vice president basically threw out this vote of no confidence that they were going to have. Instead, in the next 24 hours, the voting will begin in Parliament to count the actual numbers. Many analysts see this the end of Khan government in Pakistan. Others believe the Prime Minister's hold on power will be consolidated. Well, now there's going to be another election in 3 months, it seems. And there's talk that he's going to consolidate his power, Imran Khan. You know, I'm actually saying, what I've been sitting here saying is, hold on a minute. Are you telling me that America and the UK now, I suppose, obviously, because we're their puppy dogs, will be saying, oh yes, regime change in Pakistan. How long before we declare Wang Guaido president of Pakistan? How long before that happens? So, if the courts entertain the government's position to look into the foreign meddling and bribery cases, that's what the vice president basically said. No, I'm not going to do this count on this vote of no confidence in Imran Khan. I'm dissolving Parliament, and the courts are going to decide if this was the result of some foreign meddling in our sovereign Parliament, in our sovereign nation's politics. In just a few days, Khan has already displayed a modest demonstration of his street power. The mood and sentiment across the social media spectrum, as of now, is lopsidedly in favour of the Prime Minister. He's come out of this looking very good. Large segments of the public has loudly rallied around him as a spokesman of their aspirations, while opposition party leaders are being characterised as corrupt individuals who want to topple an elected government. I'm sure that people in Pakistan will be looking at those people who crossed the aisle after being told by the American diplomat, you need a regime change. We need to get rid of your president, basically. If I was in Pakistan, I'd be basically saying, are you a traitor? Who do you serve? Do you serve America or do you serve Pakistan? The people of Pakistan? What is going on here? Does Pakistan have sovereignty? We know the United Kingdom hasn't because we got Julian Assange locked up in Belmarsh. The country's main opposition parties are the Pakistan Muslim League and the Pakistan People's Party, both dynastic groups that ruled for decades until Khan came along with his campaign promises to root out the rampant corruption and cronyism that has plagued Pakistani politics for years. So you can see this is played right in to Imran Khan's lap, really, and improved his popularity. And don't we see this all the time now with America and what they're doing around the world? There is no, and us, let's face it, the UK, our government goes along with them with everything they want. Stealing Venezuela's gold. I mean, they just declared Juan Guaido president. Why? Because Maduro's a bad man. So you can just declare an elected leader as null and void. Well, yes, because we're the international community. Really, are you? How many are in this international community? We represent about 10% of the planet. Well, that's not an international community, is it? That's just a bunch of people who are deciding shit for the rest of the world. And they're doing this all around the world, and they have done for decades. Let's face it, ever since World War II we've been doing this. In Iran and South America and all sorts of countries. And look at those countries. Let's just look at the countries that we've affected a regime change in. Let's look at the last ones, shall we? Let's look at Syria right now. We've tried a regime change in Syria. What happened? Huge bloodshed. Proxy war going on since 2012, since that regime change. And it's been going on for a decade. All manner of radical groups being funded by our intelligence services to try and oust Assad. And for what? I think they've got their electric on about 3 hours a day in some parts in Syria at the moment. The United States is still illegally occupying 30% of Syria. Just happens to be the 30% where all the grain is grown. You look at there was a Jeffrey Sachs study. 40,000 Venezuelans have died because of American sanctions. And let's look at Libya, shall we? They tried a regime change in Libya. Well, open slave markets now in Libya. And it was the richest country in Africa when Gaddafi was there. Gaddafi was terrible, but it was the richest country in Africa. They had healthcare, America. Imagine that. Do you? But we had to go into Libya because he was a brutal dictator, and look what happened. The country is an absolute mess. And it's the same with every other country that a regime change is attempted in by America. They're not doing it for the people of that country. They're doing it for themselves. And they're not doing it for themselves when I say the American people either. Because the American people, they're not benefiting from this. It's all being stolen by the people who are ruling over them like gods. Having their sons and their families profit from everything. Jumping over each other like a box of rats. Corrupt to the hilt. All making millions and billions of dollars and pounds while you and I starve to death and freeze to death in this winter, maybe. We give them this power. They hold our sovereignty in trust for us. They've broken the social contract. When are we going to overthrow these corrupt MFers? When am I going to look outside my window and see people marching with torches and spears? Because honestly, I think that's the only thing that's going to change things now. I really do. I don't think there's not. You can protest as much as you want. They're just not going to care. They won't give a shit. They'll just get their police to crack your heads, crack your skulls, and then move on and get their media to give you a totally slanted view of reality to turn the 90% that didn't go out and protest against the 10% that did. And that's what's going on. And what's the option? How are we going to change any of this? Vote Labour? Vote Keir Starmer in? This system is not working for you at all. If you're in the UK or America, it's not. Meanwhile, they're going around the world telling other countries how they should run their country. Can you believe that shit? There are homeless under every bridge in America, I'm told. Every bridge in California, there's homeless people. There's homeless encampments I've seen between motorways and residential areas, trying to keep them separate and out of sight from people now. These tent cities. Cities popping up all over the place in America, they're just all called tent. Meanwhile, they're telling Pakistan they've got to toe the line. Why? As you've heard, they get 40% of their grain from Russia. Why is how is aligning with America going to benefit any Pakistanis? Millions of Pakistanis poured out to see Prime Minister Khan speak on the 27th of March when he alleged that foreign powers are engineering a regime change in Pakistan. Waving a letter drawn from his coat pocket, Khan threatened to reveal direct written threats to Pakistan and himself. Top cabinet ministers Asad Umar and Farhad Chowdhury held a joint press conference where they revealed further details of this controversial letter. Khan then invited several members of the cabinet, media and the Pakistani security community to view the document firsthand. Now, I'm sure you've heard reporting on this on the media, on the BBC. I haven't. How many of them have told you that the Americans basically tried a regime change in Pakistan? I'm betting not one of them. But that's exactly what they seem to have done. Government opponents dismissed Khan's allegations outright, amidst an enormous amount of hubris and posturing soon to follow. Pakistani opposition leader Shahbaz Sharif proclaimed that he will jump ship and join Imran Khan if the letter is real and the PM was speaking truthfully. I hope he does. I hope he's a man of his word and he jumps over and says, okay, yeah, because this letter's true. I think it's legit. But within hours, a mysterious... Similarly, prominent anti-establishment TV anchor Salim Safi said that if the letter was real, he would retire from his position and drop out of media altogether. But within hours, a mysterious petition was filed in the Islamabad High Court with the Chief Justice Islamabad Atar Minalla issuing a legal opinion that Imran Khan may not share this letter in public because of the secrecy oath. Such a swift ruling could not have come from Pakistani's highest judicial authority about a fake letter, surely. Exactly. If the letter was fake, why did the highest judiciary in the land come out and say, no, you can't share that because of the loyalty oath and the secrecy? It's obvious that this letter was sent. It's obvious that Biden and the Democrats and the Americans and those unfortunate elements that just keep trying to affect regime change around the world have once again doing it. What's pointing the finger at other countries around the world and saying you can't do that? Naughty, naughty. The next day, the country's National Security Committee convened for a meeting. In attendance were Pakistani's Prime Minister, the Army Chief, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Pakistan Air Force and Naval Chiefs, the National Security Advisor and several other important officials. Opposition members boycotted the meeting, but participants took a unanimous decision to reprimand the United States for its actions and ensure that Pakistan would not allow US authorities off the hook so easily. Why would they all have done that and took that unanimous decision if that letter was a fake letter? Obviously, it's a real one. Subsequently, the Foreign Office called the acting US ambassador and reprimanded him, none of which could have conceivably been done if the letter was false. What's in the letter? Okay, according to the statements made by Khan during the NSC meeting, senior officials from the US State Department, believed to be an Undersecretary of State, sent the letter on 7th of March via Asad Majid Khan, the Pakistani ambassador in Washington. The document reportedly states that there will be a no-confidence motion against the Prime Minister soon. And then the next morning, these 7 people from the coalition said, now we're with the other side now, and members of his own party started saying, yeah, we're going to defect too. That Khan should not know that this no confidence vote is coming soon, and that he should not resist the no confidence motion but go down with it. If he tries to resist it, the letter allegedly continues, Khan and Pakistan will face horrible consequences. That's a lovely way to, threaten an ally, isn't it? And that's what it is. You're threatening an ally. Well, an alleged ally. The letter mentions the no confidence motion about 8 times. The next day, on the 8th of March, a no confidence vote was indeed announced. I mean, this is like... Do you remember my reporting on the Victoria Nuland thing in Ukraine, where she's talking about Yatsy's the guy and talking about who's going to be in government, and then the coup happened, and then the president was ousted. It's the same thing happening again. This time in Pakistan. It's out in the open now. It's a lawless state, America is. And we are supporting them. And our media is not talking about it at all. And if they are talking about it, they are giving it a slant that you have to be coming in on an angle of about 1,000,000 degrees to try and figure out what the truth is there. According to Khan, he has security agency information on how the illegal buying and selling of votes took place among Pakistan's parliamentarians during this time. Then, on the 9th of March, the nation's military leadership declared itself neutral between the opposition parties and the Prime Minister. Khan criticised the militaries for taking a neutral stance, saying a vital institutions of the state should not show neutrality to those openly and willfully being used as tools of a regime change orchestrated by the adversaries of Pakistan. But after Foreign Minister Shah Qureshi's return from Beijing, the military now appears to be favouring Khan's position. I've heard that too. It seems that either a phone call or a message must have come directly from Beijing. I don't know about that, but they do seem to be taking this more seriously in the last 24 hours, certainly from what I've heard. If the foreign meddling case is a priori to the no confidence motion, then it's possible that Khan will have a legal relief, and those accused of collaborating, aiding and assisting an external regime change conspiracy will be indicted. I'm assuming they will be indicted on charges of treason. Wouldn't you expect that? If they've basically... I mean, if Khan's right there, and he's got evidence that those accused were collaborating, aiding and assisting US with the regime change in Pakistan, that's treason, isn't it? You tell me. This would include opposition political party members and Pakistani media personalities who have purportedly been traipsing to and from the US Embassy in the days, weeks and months preceding the motion, now set for a seat-gripping vote on Sunday. It was chucked out. This vote was chucked out. The Vice President had already been told by Imran Khan, I hear, to dissolve the Parliament, and so none of this mattered. It was a kind of good move by Imran Khan, in my opinion. And he seems to have caught quite a few people red-handed here. You know, if they've been traipsing to and from the US Embassy in the days before this, and they've been getting... I mean, I'd love to see their bank accounts, wouldn't you? Eh? If this can be proven in a court of law, many opposition leaders may end up behind bars. According to Pakistan's highest national security office and judging from the IHC notices, it appears clear that the letter was legitimate and the US is guilty of meddling in Pakistan's internal affairs. But this is not 2001 when former Pakistani President General Musharraf capitulated to the Americans upon receiving a single phone call. I don't remember anything about that. It's before my time. I'll have to look into it. Today's Pakistan has a stronger self-identity after 2 decades of grueling and unrecognised sacrifices for Washington's unsuccessful war on terror. Equally, they now also understand that the US is a declining power. Obviously, bin Laden was found in Pakistan, and Pakistan was one of the countries that Obama was bombing by drone. How often do you hear that, eh? Obama bombed Pakistan by drone. Yeah, without congressional approval, did it through the Patriot Act. How often do you hear it? And also, why were you in Afghanistan all that time, wasn't it? Because they were harbouring Osama bin Laden. They refused to give him up. Even though they said we didn't have him. We haven't got him, but we wouldn't give him anyway. That's what I understand that's what the Taliban said at the time anyway. So America went, oh, we regime change then. Because it always works. I'm sorry I'm laughing, it's horrible. But you can see, how did that work out, by the way, that regime change in Afghanistan? Replaced the Taliban with the Taliban, if I remember correct, is that right? Most Pakistanis do not care about US sanctions any longer. Of course not. Who cares about you? I mean, seriously. How long before the US starts sanctioning the UK? How long? I mean, they're already sanctioning the EU. Got them to... They're telling the EU you can't get your fuel from him. You can't get your gas from his pipeline. You got to get it from us. We've got to transport it over the Atlantic to you. How are you going to transport that? How are you going to transport gas across the ocean? And why are you doing it if we are going down the route of a climate apocalypse? And it's more expensive as well, obviously. So they're just dictating to the world how they can run their economies, aren't they? Anyway, I'll carry on with this article. The public mood and sentiment is to dismiss sanctions threats, recognising that there will be consequences from the Pakistani side, which could lead to the expulsion of American diktats from the AfPak-Iran region. During his 1st of April interview on national television, Imran Khan exhorted the Pakistani nation to reject the alliance of corrupt parties and Western-backed media. They're all lying to you. The Western-backed media, they're lying to you constantly right now. Constantly. The propaganda is off the chain. They are presenting only half of the story, and they are absolutely misinforming you on a daily basis. Almost every time I turn on the TV and look at the news in the morning, it's stuff that they're lying to you about or presenting only half the facts of to try and keep you docile and pliant and not burning down the Houses of Parliament. Not that I'm suggesting that, of course. It's just a figure of speech. If Khan didn't have the ability to rally the street, they could have spared him, but his current popularity and obstinate resistance to US bullying tactics make him a prime target for assassination. This is obviously something that's talked about more in the last 24 hours, but this is as a result of the United States. This is Imran Khan's life is now in danger because of the United States meddling in their elections. I mean, I'm old enough to remember the last 5-6 years of the United States grabbing its pearls and the media constantly talking about Russia meddling in the United States elections and somehow Putin electing Trump. It was preposterous. It was some Facebook ads and some, they didn't elect Trump. For 5 years they were talking about it. And there's nothing to talk about. And here we are, an actual regime change that now has put one of the presidents of a nuclear-powered nation, his life at risk. Because the United States want their hegemony around the world and want everybody to bend to their will if they start swinging their big dick around. Most Pakistanis have long considered the killing of leaders such as Khan, Bhutto, al-Haq, Benazir Bhutto to be the work of US intelligence. To those citizens, any perceived threat to Prime Minister Imran Khan's life is a real and imminent danger. Very rapidly, the security around him has been reshuffled and new measures have been taken to provide him with extra protection. This isn't Putin or Xi Jinping. This isn't Kim Jong-un that's doing this. It isn't even India. You'd expect it with... No. Not China. This is America. Again. Khan's narrative around United States interference has gained heavy momentum in the past week. I wonder why. You should have a look at my reporting on Russiagate. It was a nonsense. It really was. It was totally, they just jumped on anything and propaganda. There was some stuff there, don't get me wrong. Russia did some stuff. I'm not saying they didn't. But to say that Putin got Trump elected and Trump was Putin's puppet was preposterous. The storyline is one of two sides butting heads at a critical juncture in the country's history. On one side, an Indo-US alliance, corrupt Pakistani opposition parties, the country's corporate media, and a handful of Western-styled liberals. On the other side, a legally elected, popular and feisty Prime Minister supported by the Russo-China alliance and an overwhelming majority of Pakistanis. You will see, if they go to the polls in 3 weeks, which I can only see him sweeping to a larger majority here in Imran Khan. I can't imagine this going any other way, but his life's at risk now. With those odds, it may be politically and legally impossible for Pakistan's military to maintain its ostensible posture of neutrality, no matter how much US pressure comes at it. Time may be on Khan's side, and obviously the views expressed in that article do not reflect those of the cradle. There you go. That's what's happening over there at the moment in Pakistan. The United States tried a regime change again. That's what it seems like. That I can't understand how that letter it can be called fake. I can't understand how it would be fake if the judiciary has come out and made a statement on it, and after seeing it, the military went, "Oh no, we're going to unanimously rebuke the United States authorities here." They wouldn't have done that based on a false letter, would they? So this is the United States trying to overthrow the elected leader of a nuclear power. But then it's not like they're trying to hide that they do this anymore, is it? As I've been explaining to you, the war in Ukraine is a proxy Cold War between the United States, the United Kingdom and Russia. But Biden said, if I can find it, he said that he wants regime change in Russia. Yeah. Said it out loud. Then walked it all back, of course. But this is what they do. And we're aligning ourselves with them while saying that we're standing up for democracy. I heard Hillary Clinton today talking to, I think it was Meet the Press, Chuck Todd, talking about how they're defending democracy in Europe. They're defending democracy in Europe whilst crapping all over it in Pakistan. Can you see the hypocrisy here? Can you see why why I point these things out. It's not because I'm pro Putin. It's because I'm just trying to look at the situation through clear eyes and a clear lens, and try and report things as they actually are, rather than how the people that fund the Conservative Party or the Labour Party want the news to be seen. All right. I think I've covered everything. I've got a bit of an announcement, everybody. I hope you're listening. Yeah, I've got some problems that I have to sort out, and some financial problems, and I'm going to have to go behind a paywall. I'm going to have to sort my website out and start basically saying you need to be a member to see my stuff. £1 is all it's going to be, the membership fee. I'll still release stuff on TikTok. When I go live, I will still go live. It will be free for everybody to watch. But if you want to see the replay of the live shows or the replay of the podcasts, etc., you'll have to go to my website. That's the way it's going to be done in future. I can't afford to do this anymore the way I'm doing it. I tried to give everything away for free. Try to just say, if you can afford to give me something, and try to make it sort of like a relationship where it's cool. If you don't give me any money, I still get everything, and you'll still get everything. But I need to start making money now, because otherwise I'm going to lose my flat and stuff. I'm going to be homeless. If I end up homeless, then I can't give you any news at all from a cardboard box, can I? So yeah, the next few weeks I'm going to be redesigning my website and turning it into a membership site, of which it'll be £1 a month. Nothing else will change with regards to me going live. I'll still go live. I'll still send out, emails. Although I didn't do that today, did I? When I am going live, notifying you of when I do it. But once the live stream ends, if you miss the live stream, you won't be able to see it unless you go to my website, and it'll be £1. That's all the membership will be. And if you can't afford the £1, email me. But I'm going to have to try and do something to get my. Otherwise, I'm going to get booted out my flat. Simple as that. All right. I don't think there's anything else I need to cover. Quickly go into the chat and say hi to everyone. Rupert Fellow says Aldi's supermarket in Germany says their prices are going to double. The price of everything's going to go through the roof, I think. Everything's going to double, not just the price of full food. It's going to increase massively as a result of this. And it's all, these people who are deciding what they're going to do with our futures right now, they caused this. They caused this, and they're all telling us right now that they're the only ones that can get us out of it. They're the ones that caused it. They're the ones that caused the financial crash in 2008 that we all paid for with a decade of austerity. And now they're going to say that we need to pay for their problems and their mistakes that have caused this rising inflation. No. Something's got to change. Something's got to change. I'm hoping you'll agree with me. I'm hoping that you'll all, whether you're left, right, centre or whatever, will agree with me that, yeah, this is not a left-right fight anymore. This is right-wrong. You understand what I mean? This is not about the left, not about the right. It's about what's right and what's wrong. And what's wrong is these rich bastards who are ruling over us like lords, thinking that they can do some sort of PR stunt in the car park of a Tesco with a Kia Rio, trying to make out that they're a man of the people when they're married to billionaires who are profiting from, well, in Russia right now, whilst they're sanctioning other oligarchs and other people who are profiting from Russia and banning them from tournaments. It's time for them to go. Don't you agree? It's time for us to create a different system. Because voting for these people is not going to change anything. Don't you agree? Voting left, right, green, it's nothing going to change anything. It's the system that needs changing. We don't need to change politicians. We need to change the system. All right. Hopefully, that's the message that you'll all take away from tonight anyway. Somebody just said in the chat, I think after the United States scandal, they have weapons of mass destruction. After that, the US behaved better. No, they didn't. The media just got better at covering it up. Weapons of mass destruction led to the invasion of Iraq. But then you had Libya, Somalia, drone bombing of Pakistan, Iran. Well, the other countries that... And that was all Obama. Obama took Bush's 2 wars. There was only 2 wars that Bush was in. Maybe 3 you could include. But it was Obama that expanded them, I think, to 8 or 9. And then Trump had in another one. Although his instinct was anti-war, wasn't it? You're amazing, but please shut down on the booze a bit. Okay? Don't drink that much, mate. You think I've got some bad skin, do you? Got a light right there showing up all my bad blotches. If you actually look on that screen, but kind of don't drink that much anymore. Ruble recovered, says Maya Amir. Yeah, this was meant to crash the Russian economy to affect regime change. You know, of course it was, but it bounced back pretty quickly. Russia's a big player. It's the 11th biggest economy in the world. You know, if sanctioning Iran until its economy screamed didn't lead to regime change in Iran, what do you think sanctioning the Russian regime is going to do? Not a damn thing. It's energy independent. It's food independent. It doesn't matter whether you crash their ruble. They can figure out another way, and they obviously already did. So, yeah. What was attempted failed miserably, didn't it? Just looking through the comments on TikTok, saying hi to everybody. All right. Okay, everybody. I think that's it. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Please, go to the website, and if you haven't, sign up to my mailing list. Subscribe to my mailing list. I've only just come back from a ban on TikTok. Don't know, I might disappear from these things. We don't know what might happen. I could be removed from these platforms. It's arbitrarily done. So go to the website, sign up to my mailing list. At least then I will be able to keep in contact with you directly. Yeah, and please support me if you can. £1 is all I need. If 10% of you did that, we'd be fine. All right. Thank you very much. Make sure, yeah, that's everything. Thank you. Love you all. For independent media. All right, everybody. That's the live stream out for tonight. I'll be doing more videos over the coming days, but whether they get banned or not, I don't know. But if I do disappear again, then TikTok have obviously got me on a suspension for some truth that I have said. Yeah, that's my mailing list on my website and subscribe there, and we'll be able to keep contact directly. Until then, I'll see you again probably tomorrow or the next day. Take care, everybody. Love you all.